In terms of gaming monitors, for the last couple of years, I've gotten a bit lost in the weeds of high-end OLED hysteria. Until recently, I bought this Amazon Basics gaming monitor for a video and was genuinely blown away by it, which got me thinking, in the last couple of years, has the budget gaming monitor space seen the same kind of revolution as the high-end? Well, in today's video, we find out. But first, today's video is sponsored by Micro Center, and this month they're all about savings. Starting with their fall sales event, which sees prices dropping on their gaming systems and individual components like this Lian Li AIO and some AMD graphics card action. But aside from that, they've also got a bunch of amazing top deals, like $250 off this Lenovo gaming laptop. Or if you want more than just a CPU, Micro Center's AMD and Intel bundle deals will see you save a bunch of money on the core of your system. So check out Micro Center's crazy deals using the link down below. Now for today's video, I'm gonna have a look at 3 different monitors that on paper offer a lot of performance for the amount that they cost. And I'm gonna start off with the Amazon Basics monitor that we had a look at in a previous video. Now, for about $150 US, although sometimes it goes on sale, you can't get it for less than that, you get a 24-inch IPS 1080p display. Now, 24-inch and 1080p work very well together in my opinion. The pixel density on this display is pretty good. It's not amazing, but things look nice and sharp on it. And the really good thing about 1080p is that it's not particularly demanding. You can run it with relatively affordable graphics cards these days, and it's a 165Hz panel, so gaming is really nice on it. Its motion rendering is nice and smooth, it's snappy, games look very good on it. Even for things like Counter-Strike, it's more than good enough. It really works very well. But the most impressive thing for me about this monitor at this price point is its IPS display. I'm used to budget gaming monitors coming with pretty terrible VA displays. Now, some people like VA, but I think they're a hideous abomination because of their really bad ghosting issues, which this monitor doesn't really have. Here's a UFO test and you can see that yeah, it's some pretty good motion rendering right there. And aside from the pretty good motion rendering, it also measures really well. Aside from magenta, it's real color accurate, although you're just getting sRGB color space coverage with this, which for this price point's fine. It's not like a professional video editor's buying this. Now, aside from the display characteristics, its stand is also a lot less terrible than I was expecting. You get like height adjust on it. It doesn't go super tall, but I mean, that's really good for a $150 monitor. Now, in standard fashion, IPS displays do have their shortcomings. This doesn't have particularly good contrast ratios, so black looks more gray on this monitor, and it does have some IPS glow issues, but you have to pay a lot to fix those problems, so in my opinion, this is the best compromise. And after using this again for the last couple of days, I still very much stand by what I said in the previous video on this monitor. I would happily game with this thing every day. Having said all that, considering that this is a 1080p gaming monitor, resolution-wise, this isn't going to be an upgrade for like 90% of the human race. So I decided to go and look for the next step up, a 27-inch 1440p display. The thing is, I am real picky with displays, so I didn't want to sacrifice in image quality to get these higher specs. But luckily, I was able to find a monitor that barely costs more than this, but is very similar to it except for more. So let's check it out. And luckily, this monitor meets that brief. It's the Kuroi 27E3Q, I think is what it's called, and it is a 27-inch 1440p monitor that has a 170Hz refresh rate. In my opinion, that's as much as you need. Although I'm not hopped up on PCP playing Counter-Strike and whatever, so what do I know about that? But 170Hz is plenty in my opinion. Now, going from the Amazon Basics display to this Kuroi one doesn't just get you 3 extra inch, you also get some increased pixel density, which does unfortunately mean it's going to be harder on your gaming system. And aside from all of that resolution and refresh rate, it's got a really nice IPS panel in it. It's not some VA garbage, which I'm gonna smack talk a lot in this video. I did some measurements on this thing, and it measures really well. Like, it covers 96% of the DCI-P3 color space. And it's nice and accurate. It's also bright, although its contrast measures pretty butt cheeks even for an IPS display, but in practice, it looks just IPS-y. Now for gaming, this monitor does a real good job with very good motion rendering, and it's just smooth and the image looks right. It's real good. This Kuroi display is very much just that Amazon Basics one on a whole bunch of steroids. It even physically looks similar, which means its stand isn't complete garbage like is often the case on budget monitors. Even if it doesn't go quite high enough, you still get a full range of adjustments on it. I would still put it on a VESA arm, or at least on like a box or a monitor stand, so you can sit nice and upright while you're using it. But honestly, for this price, like, oh, I haven't told you the price yet. Okay, I am shocked every time I look up the price for this thing, but at the moment, you can buy this 1440p very well measuring high refresh rate gaming monitor for $160 US. That's only $10 US more than that Amazon Basics display, which for a 24-inch 1080p display is wildly good value for what it is. What does that make this thing? Like, just forget the price. Even if you don't take its $160-ness into account, it's just a good display. I don't know how Kuroi is selling it for the amount that they are. I kind of feel like there had to have been flesh-eating bacteria in the box because that's the only way that would make sense. But then surely I'd have to also pay for the flesh-eating bacteria? So does that mean that it's better value with that? I don't know. Now, I don't know what it's going to be like long term. It may just last 2 weeks. I don't know that. Actually, let's see what the warranty is. So in terms of warranty, it's got a 12-month replacement service on it, which I don't really know what that means, but they also list a 3-year warranty on it. So it's gonna at least last that long. I don't know. The pricing of this thing is wild. It's a very good display. I like it a lot. Now, enough talk of the Kuroi. For the next monitor, I wanted to get an ultra-wide 34-inch display because I wanted to see what budget options of that looked like. But unfortunately, unless you're paying like $500 or $600 up for one, you only get VA paneled ones. And what I found interesting is that they all kind of hide their VA-ness. You had to dig pretty deep in the specs and then suddenly, VA! But anyway, because I wouldn't buy a VA panel for my own personal gaming use, I decided to look elsewhere. So instead, I decided to put myself in the mind of a PCP user, somebody that's just cranked to the gills on ecstasy all the time, and you need lots of refresh rate from your monitor to keep up with your brain that is about to explode from all of the stimulation. And luckily, I found an option. Unluckily, it's not very good. I think I go on about drugs for too long there. I should probably do a less druggy version of that. Okay. And then finally, we have this Pixio thing. It's a 1080p 25-inch IPS display with a 280 Hz refresh rate, which is very high. In fact, I think it's the highest refresh rate monitor I've interacted with, although it kind of fumbles with that a bit, and I'll explain later, because the first thing that I noticed when I took it out of the box was its completely butt-cheek stand. In fact, I'm convinced it's broken, because even though it's clipped in place, I can't get it to not be this limp. So you kind of have to try very gently to position it straight, but any movement makes it go skew again. It's got no adjust to it other than you can kind of tilt it up and down. It's also got by far the worst OSD implementation. The crappy little buttons make it really difficult to navigate compared to the nice joysticks on both of the other monitors. Now granted, that is a real loser nitpick, but considering that this monitor cost quite a bit more than the other two displays at $220 US at the moment, it normally goes for $240, so like the other displays, the prices do fluctuate, but still, it's the most expensive monitor by quite a bit. However, the ergonomic foibles are forgivable if they put all that money towards the panel. Despite it being by far the most expensive, it's by far the worst of the three monitors. When I initially started using it, I was surprised at how bad the movement looked on it, and when you look at the UFO test, you can see that it's actually the smeariest of the three displays, which I feel like completely defeats the purpose of it being very high refresh rate, when lower refresh rate displays have better motion rendering. Like, the motion rendering is really not good on it, although it does feel nice and snappy, so you can Counter-Strike on it pretty hard. It's not like the other two don't, but still. And then the second thing that I noticed about it is that the colors on it look really weird. The moment that I loaded into CS2, everything looked completely different to how I remembered it looking. And then I tested the display and it tests abysmally on the standard settings, the standard preset that it has. The main problem is that color accuracy. What is going on there? Now you can get it to test a bit better. If you switch over to FPS 2, that fixes the color accuracy issues, although in exchange for that, it screws up the tone response and you lose brightness control for some reason. But generally, the image looks way better. Not sure why the standard mode is such a dumpster fire though. That's really weird that they ship it like that. But despite all of that, I actually think me buying this monitor served a very important purpose. It showed me that you can't just buy any budget IPS display these days and think that it's gonna be as good as those other two, whereas this panel, it feels like they took a display that wasn't meant to do 280 Hz and they just overclocked the living crap out of it until it got to that marketing number, and then they ruined everything else in the process. That's kind of what it feels like. So with that, I've enjoyed this look into the budget end of gaming monitors, because it's really nice to see that you don't have to spend a whole bunch of money to get in on this huge increase in gaming monitor performance that we've seen happen over the last 2 years. It's trickling down. It's very good. I like that. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel, maybe watch another one. The suggestion will pop up in a second. And until the next video, bye-bye.